Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we have the new Tier 9 Premium Dockyard German Heavy Cruiser, the
Blücher!
Blücher, in port to review for you guys today. The Blücher is the third and final real steel Hipper class heavy cruiser to be added to the game. She joins her sisters, the Hipper and the Prince Eugen. Unlike them, however, she is a Tier 9 ship, with some interesting changes to fit her in that new tier bracket. So we're going to take a look at the Blücher today, talk about how much it costs to get her out of the dockyard and all that jazz. And of course, take her out into the game and give her a score. Now, before we go any further, absolutely massive shout out to the channel's Patreon supporters. I am not a CC, so I do not get these ships for free. We have to buy them using the funds that the channel generates from the ad revenue, or with the very generous funds that the Patreon donors donate to the channel. So if you wish to support the channel, besides watching the videos and streams, Patreon is the next best place to do so. Link to that is in the description down below. But yeah, the Blücher guys, I was really excited when she was announced that, this was going to be our next dockyard ship, a real still historical ship, right on the back of the Wisconsin dockyard. That's always cool in my book when these real still ships get to show up in game. Yes, even if it is the same class, it is a real still historical ship. Although the Blücher's history is a little short, right? Used in the invasion of Norway, got vibe checked by a World War I era fortress. Not really the best day for the Blücher. In fact, the gray camo is quite historical because I do believe the ship hadn't been out of dry dock that long, not dry dock, out of the dockyard that long before she was sunk. Like, we're talking brand new ship, didn't even have a chance to rust before getting sunk, and it does look like that is reflected here on the ship's historical camo. So, the dockyard, if you do wish to acquire this ship, how does one do so? So, if you check out your combat missions, you'll find the dockyard combat missions here. So, by completing all these combat missions, you will have unlocked 18 of the 20 phases needed to pick up the Blücher here. Now, if you do that and you wish to get the last two phases, you can, of course, buy them at the end at the tune of 2,000 doubloons a phase, or you can pick up the starter bundle, which runs about 3,800-ish doubloons, so it's a little bit cheaper there to buy that starter bundle if you are planning on completing the dockyard one way or another. So if you do buy those two phases and you complete all the missions, you get the Blücher here and all these goodies that you see up on screen for, again, the tune of little under 4,000 doubloons if you buy the starter bundle, which is what I would highly encourage you to do if you're going to finish the Blücher dockyard anyway. If you do want to pay your way through the Blücher dockyard, if you buy the two starter bundles and then buy the rest of the phases, it will run you right around 140-ish US dollars. So that is a pretty steep price, but you get the Blücher and again all the goodies. But if you buy your way through it, you get steel, 250 steel for each of the phases you complete afterwards. So pretty nice chunk of steel there at the end if you do wish to buy your way through it. But is the Blücher worth doing either of those things for? Let's take a look at her here in port. So I do have Legions on here, I do have my module build on here as well, so we'll be going through that here in a second. But for the ship stats, so armor, it's a Hipper, right? So you get the 27mm bow, 40mm partial icebreaker bow. Interestingly enough, and I'm assuming this is because the Blücher is an early version of the Hipper class, if you will, she has a little bit of her cheeks exposed here. So if we'll take a look at the Hipper or the Prince Eugen, you'll notice that their torpedo bulges are larger. I'm assuming that's because they lived a little bit longer, so they got, some refits here and there, where the Blücher did not have that opportunity. So that's interesting that the Tier 9 has a little bit less armor than the Tier 8 version of the same ship. Interesting indeed. So you see the torpedo protection's much smaller there on the Blücher compared to the Eugen, where it comes up to the bow section of the ship. So Yeah, other than that, from what I've been able to tell, it's pretty similar all the way around. 27 everywhere, 27 deck, 27 upper belt, 27 stern. You get the little itty bitty 70 millimeter plate back here too, and again, a little bit of that cheek showing there. Again, taking a look at the Eugen. Yeah, that's behind the torpedo protection. Yep. So interesting, interesting indeed. All right. Moving on from the... Oh, well, I mean, I guess since... If you're not familiar with the Hipper Citadel, there it is. So it looks pretty well protected. I mean, it's underneath all this additional armor, right? You got that 80 millimeter belt armor there. Then it's a little bit sloped there. It's 30 millimeters right there. And then you do have, the smaller torpedo protection on top of it. But what's really interesting about the Hipper Citadel is that, for whatever reason, you can get shot here in the rudder and you lose like half of your HP. It's so weird how the shells get from the rudder to the Citadel, but somehow they do. So that's a fact of life of the Hipper, of the Prince Eugen, and of the Blücher. Alright, so for ability, with the commander skill and the flag, we have 51,850 hit points. So, yeah, again, it's a Hipper. For your guns, you have 8 203 millimeter 8-inch guns with a 10.6 second reload time with the reload module. It's 12 seconds base. And a 180 turn time of 17.2 seconds with Lucian's improved turret rotation skill. It is 18 seconds base. Maximum dispersion of 143 meters. That is with the dispersion module. It's, 150-ish base. And a maximum range of 18.5 kilometers. That is the base maximum range. Your HE shells do 2,500 maximum damage. Again, the good old anemic German HE. They have a 13% fire chance per shell. 51 millimeters of armor penetration. That improved penetration of the German HE shells. Those come out the tubes at 925 meters a second. The AP does 6,405 maximum damage with the AP damage skill. That's pretty dang good. And the AP is quite spicy. It does have the improved ricochet angles, and boy, does it work. But also interesting, too, is that it has a very short fuse time. It's, I believe, 0.025 seconds. So they pin very well, but that short fuse means that you don't get overpins on light cruisers and such. That is very nice. But also does mean that you can't really punch battleships in their citadel short of extreme close range. So it is some very, very good AP and should definitely be your ammo of choice. Again, more on that in the gameplay section. You do get 12 105 millimeter secondary guns. No, don't secondary build it. I know we all dream about it, but don't do it. They're just there for the dual purpose AA, and that's it. Torpedoes, you do, of course, get the 4x3 533mm torps, 8 kilometer range, 13,700 maximum damage. They travel at 60 knots, and they are detected from 1.3 kilometers away. For the airstrike, you do get 2 flights of the German ASW aircraft. Defenses, you get 8 of the 20 millimeter guns, 6 of the dual-mounted 37mm guns, and then the 105s are dual purpose. That's a low number. It reflects it. It's not that good when it comes to AA. Alright, so she has a maximum speed of 34.4 knots, a turning circle radius of 740 meters, the rudder shift time is 6.6 seconds. With the module standard, it's 8-ish seconds. Maximum speed 34.4 knots, that is with the flag. So without the flag, it does drop it down to 31 knots, I do believe. Detection by range with both the commander skill and the module, 11.2 kilometers. So not really great concealment there. Alright, but her toolbox is pretty interesting. So on top of getting the heal, thank God, and your choice of DFAA or Hydro, take Hydro, and spotter or fighter, you get a engine boost, a 15% engine boost that lasts for 198 seconds. That is most interesting, and it does help out quite a bit. Again, more on that in the gameplay section. So yeah, lots of utility here: Hydro, DFAA, fighter or spotter, and a heal, which is a blessing with the Prince Eugen, right? But you get the longer reload with the Prince Eugen. With the Blücher, you don't get the longer reload, and you get better AP and more accurate guns. So, very interesting indeed. So for my module build, I went with Main Armaments Mod 1, which gives us a 20% buff to the risk of the main battery becoming incapacitated, and a 50% buff to the survivability of the main battery guns, and a 20% buff to the repair time of those main battery guns. Same with the torpedo tubes. Obviously, the Blücher is all about the main battery guns. You want the guns surviving and in the fight. This helps them stay in the fight. I then took engine room protection, which, I mean, this ship basically survives by staying on the move and wiggling a lot, so you want your engine room and your steering gears to be active as much as they can. So this reduces the chance of them becoming incapacitated and improves their repair time by 20% each, so that is most welcome. I then went ahead and took the dispersion module because, well, again, it's all about the main battery guns. They already have improved accuracy, you might be thinking, so why take something that's going to have a minimal effect? It's only 7% on what's already really good accuracy. Well, yeah, but like, I want it to be more accurate, right? And plus, I mean, like, what are you going to take? The secondary battery modification? Not really. AA guns? Again, not really. Torp tubes? Not really. So really, it's the only logical choice here, and it does make sense. All right, then I took Steering Gears Mod 1. Like I said, the ship stays alive by wiggling a lot. This helps you wiggle that much better. So it reduces your rudder shift time by 20%. Then I took Consumables System Mod 1, which does give us a 10% buff to our detection, which the stealthier you are, the easier it is to disengage. And when you're running around with a hipper hole in Tier 9 matchmaking, you want to be able to disengage when you can. Lastly, for the modules, I took Main Battery Mod 3. This improves the reload time of the guns by 12%, getting us that nice quick reload time at the sacrifice of 13% of the turret traverse speed. Now, for Lucians here, for my first 1-point skill, I took Last Stand because, again, ship stays alive by wiggling. This allows you to wiggle a little bit slower once your modules are incapacitated because it allows your steering gear and your engines to work at a reduced capacity. For the first 2-point skill, and the only 2-point skill, I took Consumable Enhancements. This increases the runtime of the hydro and of the engine boost, so that is wonderful. Blücher does have the nice long-range German hydro, so yeah, absolutely, crank that thing up. Especially in the age of submarines, in the age of torpedo destroyers. You want to be able to see those torpedoes and see those subs as long as you can, right? All right, first 3-point skill, take your pick. I would normally go with Adrenaline Rush because, well, sorry, not Adrenaline Rush. I would go with Superintendent to get an additional charge of each of your consumables. This gives you 5 heals, 4 hydros, 4 fighter or spotter, and 4 engine boost. So yes, more of that. I mean, heck, more heal, more life that your ship has, especially again with a hipper hull. Yeah. Only 4-point skill I'm taking is Concealment Expert, again to get our detectability down by another 10%. Once again, the lower your concealment, the easier it is to disengage. The easier it is to disengage, the longer you live. Going back for our next 3-point skill, I would take Adrenaline Rush. You get a 0.2% boost to your reload time of your main battery and your torpedoes per 1% of HP loss. And again, it's a hipper hull. You're going to be taking damage, so get something out of it. Get a shorter reload time and faster, and well, I should say more DPM. Then Survivability Expert for an additional 450 HP per tier. Since this is a Tier 9 ship and not a Tier 8, you can get a little bit more HP with the Blücher than her sisters. So this is free HP, definitely take it. Then Heavy AP Shells, this is literally free damage. This gives you a 5% buff to your AP Shells maximum damage. Again, literally free damage, take it. And then for your last 2 1-point skills, you can take Consumable Specialist or MLG Turrets. Pick them as you want. Grease the Gears is pretty useful in this ship because, again, you are wiggling around a lot. Helps the turret stay on target. And when you're having to shift from one side of your ship to the other side of your ship, it helps getting the turrets there faster. And, of course, Consumable Specialist reduces the cooldown time for Hydro, Fighter, and your engine boost. So, yeah, you want to use them more often. Take the skill. Oh, I forgot to talk about the economy. It is a Tier 9 premium ship, so you do get a full-on Tier 9 premium economy, which is the single best economy in the game, so that is excellent. On top of the baked-in economic bonus, you get a 10% buff to your credits, 100% buff to your various commander XPs from the bonus package that the ship does come with. Alright, so that is a look at the Blücher in port. I'm going to go ahead, hop in battle, and meet you guys there with a voiceover review of the Blücher. Alright guys, voiceover Sealord here. So, the Blücher. This ship was... I was not really sure how they were going to do this when she was originally announced, because the hipper hull, like many of the older hulls in game, they suffer from some old geometry weirdness, meaning that you get shot in these really random places and somehow you get citadeled. And, that's rough at tier 8 playing the hipper and the Prince Eugen, let alone at tier 9 in today's World of Warships, where tier 9 is considered by many to be a not so desirable tier to be in, because you're constantly getting up tiered into super ship games that, super CVs and super battleships and super cruisers and super destroyers are all just fantastic to deal with in a tier 10 ship, let alone a tier 9 ship where you have the huge power gap between those two tiers. So taking a hipper hull with all the hipper weirdness and then saying, okay, go fight, like a main. That's just, right? So I was wondering if they were going to, maybe revisit the geometry of the ship or give her some armor buffs. Doesn't appear to be so, because sure enough, just like the hipper, you'll find yourself wiggling your butt, and you wiggle not well enough, something clips you in your stern, and boop, there goes a citadel's worth of damage, right? However, the rest of the ship is pretty friggin' nice. These are some wonderful 203mm guns with the German AP, with the improved ricochet angles. Oh my god, these things are amazing. When you find a broadside anything, oh man, it is a beautiful sight to behold watching the shells. Now, the shells aren't quite as accurate as I was led to believe. Keep in mind, I did not play this thing before doing this video. I did not watch anybody else's video about the Blücher before sitting down and, filming my own video, because it's my first impressions video. I'm not trying to, get a feeling for the ship according to what others say, right? But from what I had heard along the way, along the grapevine, I was thinking, okay, it's going to be, really accurate. It is really accurate, but it's not really accurate. I was thinking more along the lines of maybe a notch or two away from, Elbing, right? But they are still pretty dang accurate for what they are, and they are plenty comfortable. So you can very easily chunk broadside battleships for, if you hit them in, the extremities, so, the bow, the stern, the upper belts, depending upon what range you're at, you're going to rip them for 8, 9, 12k a salvo. It's a beauty to see those numbers coming off those ships, right? And you're doing this every 10 seconds if you take the reload module. So that is fantastic. And when we're talking about broadside cruisers, oh man, you're just outright ripping their citadel, and it is a sight to behold. There was a poor Minotaur that I removed pretty much all of his HP in one salvo. The only reason he lived is because for some reason I only got 6 citadels instead of 8. I think I couldn't get my rear turrets in on him fast enough, so I was trying to avoid him, eating through my HP with his guns. So that's the only reason he managed to survive that initial salvo. He did perish afterwards, but believe me there. But anyway, yeah, so the guns are wonderful. Broadside cruisers, they're going to get deleted. Broadside battleships, you're going to chew them to death with either, again, the superstructure, upper belt, even main belt. You can penetrate their main belt. You can get damage off of it. You won't citadel them, but you can chew on their main belt from closer ranges and get some nice damage numbers off of that with how good this AP is. But anyway, so it's great for that. Dealing with destroyers is also really nice too, because the guns are more than accurate enough to be landing most of your shells on destroyers when you see them. Now, the downside of that is, of course, that you use the AP, you overpin them, but you use the HE and you don't really do a whole lot more damage than the AP, right? But what I would usually do is I would use HE to knock out their engine or their steering gears, because again, you're landing most of your shells on these destroyers, and knocking out their engine, their steering gears, or knocking out their torpedo tubes forces them to use their damage con. And then you hit them again, you set them on fire with the HE, because again, you're landing most of your shells, and now they're burning, everyone can see them, and they eventually get bullied to death, or you just bully them to death like that. Now, you can use your AP on the destroyers, and because it has such a higher alpha rating than the HE, it's kind of better. And on some of the chunkier destroyers too, you can get some pins on them, so that's pretty nice. And keep in mind too, this is on top of the ship having a long-range hydro, 6-kilometer hydro with that long runtime. Oh yeah, this thing's great for hunting down destroyers. Obviously, I'm not saying you can go body like a Harugumo or something, or one of the gunboats that can bully you. But, I mean, compared to other Tier 9 cruisers, heavy cruisers at least, it's pretty good for dealing with the shores. And with the comfortable ballistics, 925 meters a second, very comfortable shells to shoot at over range. I found the base range of 18.1 kilometers to be more than workable with what I was having to do in the Blücher. So that's quite comfortable too. You can easily take the reload module here and enjoy that 10-second reload and be more than comfortable with playing the ship at midder-ish range. So, the Blücher is, the guns are great, the maneuverability is pretty solid. That engine boost, though, that is what really helps the Blücher survive at Tier 9. The engine boost, when you pop it, it gets you up to just shy of 40 knots. So you can, use that, run around, use it to your advantage in terms of, hitting the brakes, accelerating, throwing off the other guy's shots. And that's really how you should be playing the Blücher, always on the move, or at least throttle juking. If you're top tier, the armor of the Blücher, the belt armor is more than thick enough to bounce a lot of shells that you can see, right? So if you can persuade them to hit your belt or use the maneuverability with the rudder module and the engine boost to, finagle it to where the shells are hitting that belt armor, that angled belt armor, then yeah, you can definitely make the Blücher's HP go a long way. The problem is, of course, when you run across situations where they just punch you in your nose, punch you in your stern, and you're eating those citadels right. Those are the situations that are not exactly favorable. And again, with the old geometry of the Blücher's armor, that does happen from time to time. But at least you have a hill to kind of lick your wounds and get back going into the fight. So, dance is what I'm saying. Dance a lot in the Blücher and you'll be okay, or use island cover to your advantage. Now, of course, when you're top tier, when you're tier 9, oh my god, the Blücher is just amazing, right? Because now you're bullying tier 7s with accurate 203mm guns with improved ricochet angles, with the German AP and such. That's just the dream, right? Naturally, when I played the ship, I didn't get a tier 9 game. I thankfully did get a pretty healthy helping of tier 10 games. But don't worry, I got more than my fair share of Super Ship games, and, well, that's a joyous time for any Tier 9 ship, right? Let alone the Blücher, right? If you can't catch on to my sarcasm there, it's about what you'd expect playing a Tier 9 in Super Ship games. But the Blücher is great for either catching those broadside shots from those ships that aren't paying attention, and then if it's a cruiser, you're probably going to citadel them. So battleship, you're going to rip them for, again, 8-9k HP easily. So you're looking for those broadside shots. If you can't get in at mid-range, just like the Hippers, it's really good at mid-range, especially against other cruisers. Her armor is more than capable of dealing with other cruisers at mid to close range. So if you can make that happen, now you have really accurate guns from mid to close range. You're going to have a great time in the Blücher. And you still have the 8-kilometer torpedoes as well, which, again, mid to close range, pop the engine boost, use your maneuverability, deliver some German torpedoes to their side, laugh, and drive away. You can do this with battleships. I did it more than once when I was playing the Blücher tonight, and it was some jolly good fun, I must say. It's always satisfying pulling off a nice torpedo drive-by on a battleship in a cruiser. So, that being said, I cannot understate the, fact that this is a Hipper hull at Tier 9. So, that does account for a lot of the negativity with the Blücher. So you have a Hipper hull, you have Tier 8 armor, Tier 8 HP at Tier 9. that is a big weakness of the Blücher. So you do have to keep that in mind when you're playing this ship, that you basically act as if each battleship shell that is going to touch you is going to remove half of your HP, because there's a very good chance it could, again, with the hipper, with the old hipper hull. So that is very much a thing you need to be keeping in the back of your mind. Now, if you're playing the ship as if a single shell that touches you is going to explode you into millions of tiny pieces, and you're dancing that hard, you shouldn't be surviving in the Blücher plenty long enough. So what I would recommend for like playing the Blücher, as far as like playing her in like a typical tier 9 matchmaking bracket goes, I would definitely play her from, you know, longer-ish range at the beginning. Her guns are more than accurate enough. Her ballistics are more than comfortable enough to do that in the opening matches. I'm not saying sit back there for the entire game. No, just as the opening of the match happens, you know, look for those opportunistic shots here and there. You can keep your HE loaded for the most at the start of the match, unless, again, you got some nice broadsides being shown to you, because with the accuracy, you're landing like 7 out of 8 shells on most higher tier battleships with the Blücher guns. So your fire starting potential is quite high, because, yeah, you got a 13% fire chance per shell, but with the accuracy of the guns, you're landing most of those shells on high-tier battleships. So you'll kind of do it like that for a while, and then once things start to devolve and things get closer, load that AP, use your engine boost, go for those flanking positions, find those broadsides, deliver your 8 to 230mm German AP shells to their broadside, and laugh and, you know, rinse, wash, and repeat. It's a really fun ship in my opinion. I'm really enjoying her so far. Again, with her biggest downside being that hipper hull. So overall, numerically, I would give the Blücher an 8 out of 10. Excellent guns, excellent maneuverability, high degree of utility with her long-range, long-duration German hydro, spotter fighter, and of course the engine boost to help you get either into those flanking positions, out of those flanking positions, or I should say out of those terrible situations, or just, you know, helpful for doing donuts on the back of the map and trying to drive the enemy battleships mad as they're trying to shoot you. Downsides being, well, hipper hull at tier 9, tier 8 HP, tier 8 armor, just non-existent AA as far as that goes. So yeah, find an AA buddy if there's a CV in the match. So guys, that's my 2 cents on the hipper. I highly encourage you to grind it out for as little cost to you as possible, right? So I would, if you're planning on getting it and you're saying I'm going to grind the missions out, definitely pick up the starter bundle where you get the 2 phases for cheaper than buying them separate. That will save you some money in the construction of the Blücher, and yeah, enjoy getting those rewards, enjoy getting the Gambia and all that jazz on top of that. It's a fun ship in my opinion, and considering that I was playing it on patch day, the day it came out, and we had the YouTuber effect, despite being the hipper hull, I received a lot of attention and managed to survive in situations that I didn't think I was going to. It's still a little tough ship if you know how to, you know, kind of bait the shells to hit the right part of your ship and not the wrong part of your ship. So guys, that's my 2 cents on the Blücher. Let me know what you guys think about her in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday and wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.